Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Today's episode is brought to you by Achieve Unite, a global leader in leadership development, business acceleration, and trusted partnerships. Achieve Unite combines deep expertise, data analytics, and AI to help companies accelerate revenue, control costs, elevate talent, and build trust. They're more than advisors. They deliver results with their proven 3-part approach: talent development, ecosystem strategy, and profitable growth programs. Whether you're strengthening alliances, enhancing internal systems, or optimizing your partner ecosystem, Achieve Unite is the partner you need for success. Welcome to the Delighted Customers Podcast. I am so glad you're here. We challenge conventional thinking about customer experience because I believe that improving experiences isn't just good for business, it's a powerful way to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. Each week, we feature thought-provoking conversations with industry thought leaders from a variety of backgrounds, offering unique perspectives and actionable insights. Get ready to sharpen your leadership and transform your approach to customer experience. Let's dive in. Well, I am incredibly excited today to have a very special guest on the show, Don Peppers. And let me tell you a little bit about Don Peppers before we get started. During the course of his career, Don has authored or co-authored 11 different business books, collectively selling more than 1 million copies in 18 languages. And his first book, The One-to-One Future, Building Relationships One Customer at a Time from Doubleday, which he co-authored with his business partner Martha Rogers, which you may have heard Peppers and Rogers before, kickstarted the customer relationship management discipline, CRM, which has evolved over the years and has really been absorbed by customer experience in our field. So this is near and dear to my heart because I've had the blessing to teach customer relationship management at Michigan State in the first CXM master's degree program. And so you'll have to understand this is extra special episode for me because, you know, I have the Tom Brady, the Wayne Gretzky, the Babe Ruth, the Michael Jordan, the GOAT on the show. And so this is a big deal. This is a big deal. Don and Martha were inducted into the Data and Marketing Association's Hall of Fame, along with their business colleague, Seth Godin. And Don wrote the foreword to Godin's 1998 breakthrough book, Permission Marketing. Seth was a guest on the show as well. So, and the thing that also connects me directly to Don is he wrote now in the 4th edition, Peppers and Rogers released the customer relationship management book called Managing Customer Experience and Relationships by Wiley. And if you're watching on video, he's holding up the book, which we'll start using at Michigan State in my class, because that happens to be the class that I teach. So with that long-winded intro, Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mark. Delighted to be here, and let's get started with the meat, okay?
Yeah, let's do it. So today, what I hope we would talk about is the interplay of AI with CXM, Customer Experience Management. So if you would, if we could like level set for the audience, frame out
Sure.
what we're talking about here in terms of AI and CXM.
Well, the first kind of computing, the prior to AI, the way a business would treat different customers differently at scale is they would use rules, business rules. You know, if a customer does this, you do that. If a customer does this, you do that. If this is true, then that and that are true. But the problem with that is the rules have to be written somehow. There are software programs and so forth that make them more accessible, but it's very complicated. And it was never really true one-to-one, real-time marketing, whereas AI tools, and particularly generative AI, which gets better and better and better, hold the promise for a company really being able to treat each customer individually, even if they have millions of customers, and do it efficiently and with corrections and so forth. So I think the computing power that's out there now is going to make the one-to-one vision that Martha Rogers and I had back in the 90s come true, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. And so would you say prior it was more cost prohibitive and now it's becoming more accessible because of AI?
No, I wouldn't say that that's the problem. Costs were certainly an issue, but costs went down when we moved from Oracle and Siebel to cloud-based Salesforce and other cloud-based systems and software as a service. Data has always been available, but it's been difficult to validate, verify, comb through, and regularize. So there are all sorts of issues involved that require manual intervention. And every time you have an issue of manual intervention, you reduce the practicality of treating different customers differently. AI has its own problems, right? AI it's subject to biases because the large learning models and other tools, databases that the AI tools are trained on, those databases themselves are biased. They're biased against particular races or genders or other things. They're biased against people of different incomes, and depending on how prevalent your type of person is in the data that they're looking at. And we're dealing with all those kinds of issues. I think one of the most important issues when thinking about how to apply generative AI to one-to-one marketing is protecting the privacy and being on the customer's side. Right now, a lot of companies out there, business executives, want to do a better job of targeting customers, and literally the word target itself contains the bad idea. Okay, you should never think of customers as a target. In a truly interactive world, your customer is a partner in a relationship that you want to go on through time and to be more and more valuable. But in most companies, the organization is based on products, not customers. You can put your hand on some product that a company's operating or marketing, and you can pull the string and you can find an executive at that company who's responsible for that product somewhere. I guarantee you. Every product company is like that. But very few companies can you put your fingers on a customer and pull a string and find out who at that company has accountability for that customer's increasing lifetime value. You see what I'm saying? So it's an organizational issue as well. I think what we're seeing here is a form of technology which will demand different traditions, different cultures, different sense of mission on the part of the organizations that are using these technologies if they want to use them effectively. You need to constantly look for using these technologies and using one-to-one marketing, not to build your business bigger, but to serve your customer better, okay? And if you do that, you will build your business bigger. But if you only concentrate on your business and your costs and immediate sales, guaranteed those relationships will never be as strong as they ought to be.
Yeah, and you've been pounding that drumbeat for a long time about focusing on the customer, right? But how do you see? Because you use the word like interact and engage, and we used the word earlier, interplay. How do you see AI helping us achieve that interplay?
I see it in a number of ways. Number one, AI can make an immediate response from the company in an automated fashion that is more akin to what an empathetic human being might do. Number two, an AI can do a better job than a simple machine of interpreting customers' comment or suggestion or complaint, even to the point of analyzing their emotional sentiment and comparing it with the actions that have been taken by other customers with that sentiment and that type of history. So there's tremendous things that the AI engine can help you do. But you have to know where you want to go with it. You have to know what the goal is. And I repeat, if your goal is simply to sell more stuff and lower your costs, you're unlikely to succeed very fast. But if your goal is to use the AI tool to deliver better and better service to your customers, you're probably going to sell more stuff and probably reduce your costs as well.
Well, I want to get into some practical ways that leaders can start to think about doing that. But before we do, I want to double tap on this idea of what's the big deal. Earlier you mentioned if they treat the customers right, they will get the business outcomes that they're hoping for.
Right.
Most likely, right? And so part of my question is, are we going to get the business outcomes through, because I get asked this question all the time, am I going to get this through cost reduction? Am I going to get it through, referral business? Am I going to get it through revenue growth? Or is it a combination of all those?
Yes, and yes. Okay? Yeah, you're going to get it through all these things. The question is, how do you account for them? How do you judge your company's success when, in fact, your lifetime value model shows that a customer's lifetime value has gone up, but you don't carry, unless you're a subscription business, you don't carry customer lifetime values on your books, right? So you'll have to reconcile the inadequate accounting standards that most businesses operate under today. By the way, I'm not the only one saying those accounting standards are inadequate. The percentage of companies in the S&P 500, the percentage of assets of S&P 500 companies that are now intangible is far, far higher today. It's something like 80 or 90% of the S&P 500's assets are intangible compared to, 10 or 20% 25 years ago, because increasingly the intangible assets, which are normally goodwill and things like that, come from the value of the customer base of some company that the S&P 500 company acquired. So if you were to value Google, for instance, okay, it doesn't have $50 billion or even $2 billion worth of ping pong tables and computer consoles. Okay, it doesn't have that. The value of Google is the value that investors expect its customers to generate over future time periods. The discounted net present value of the future stream of revenue investors expect from the company. And the thing is, increasingly, it is not true that the return that investors expect is related to the factories and assets and inventory in the hands of the company. And increasingly, it's related to the attitude that consumers have, the number of customers that are reaching out, and so forth. So customers don't figure at all in most companies' financial statements. And yet, let me give you just an example. Suppose I have a really, really good customer who calls me with a complaint, and we do a bad job handling a complaint, and at the end of the call, the customer slams the phone down in disgust. Now, wouldn't you have to say that your company just lost a smidgen of its value because that customer's not going to come back? He may even tell other customers not to use. Obviously, your value has gone down a little bit, but you don't have to report it at all. It has no effect on your balance sheet. If, on the other hand, you have an inventory of products in a warehouse and they burn down, you have to take that as a loss this quarter. Right? You have to write that down.
Right.
So customer assets are not physical assets. A lot of companies will argue that it's impractical to govern with lifetime values at the helm of your thinking because it's impossible to know what lifetime value is. Well, that's true, but that's exactly the way a stock price works, doesn't it? Okay? It's impossible to know whether a stock price is accurate or not. It represents the the sum total of investors' expectations of future revenue. That's all it is. And as those expectations change, the value of the stock goes up and down in the market. And we can see that in a physical market, in NYSE or somewhere. There's no such market for lifetime values. Lifetime value is a real number. Just because you can't know what it is doesn't mean it's any less real. Consider this. In 20 years, okay, companies will be able to decide that Mark Slayton, his value in 2025 was X dollars because of the last 20 years, he's done all this business. We can just add it up. That's a real lifetime value. It exists today, but you can't really know it. You have to approximate it. So increasingly, what I'm advising companies to do is if you don't have a sophisticated lifetime value model, if you're not a subscription business, you have come up with some proxy variables. What's a proxy variable? Might be simply the frequency of purchase, okay, or that kind of thing. I sometimes tell a story about there's a car wash in Florida, Speedy Car Wash, whose owner told me that every time a car goes through, the cashier has to write the license plate number down along with the tape, okay? So they charge him the money, and they write the license plate number down. And he said, what we do with that is every couple of months, I print up a list of the top 50 license plate frequency. And I give the first employee who can spot one in the day a $10 cash bonus. So all my employees have memorized these top 50 license plates. Now, are they the 50 most valuable customers of the car wash? Maybe not, because it doesn't take account of whether it's a deluxe inside-outside job or just an outside wash, But it's better than nothing, okay? It's it's workable. So companies have to come up with proxy variables like that. I know I'm talking a lot, but let me just give you one more suggestion.
Yeah, sure.
One of the critical issues that face businesses trying to deal with this kind of marketing is justifying the current, real-time, today cost of a better customer experience in terms of the customer's future behavior, okay?
Right.
In other words,
sure.
The problem with managing customer experience, the biggest problem is the costs occur now and you can measure them precisely. The benefits are later. You cannot measure them. You can expect them and you can model them maybe, but you'll never be sure, right? Until the future. Mm-hmm. And nobody can know what the future is for sure. But you can have a discussion with the CFO at your company and say, I think customers that have this sort of profile, I think we should give them a lifetime value for planning purposes of $500. And if the CFO says, no, it's not that big. I say, well, what would you say it is? I had 200. All right, so how about we agree on 300? Is that okay? So you make an arrangement where you actually have an exchange rate between how many points of customer satisfaction it takes to create how much dollar value for the company among this particular set of customers and this set of customers. You see what I'm saying? We need practical steps like that, and you need to be thinking financially, okay, but acting in the customer experience benefits side of things.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying are a couple of things. One is that customer lifetime value is something that we can use to get a gauge of what the return on investment in CX is, even though it's not a true accounting metric today. But even if we don't have it perfect, because it looks at cost today and predicts out in the future what the return is going to be, we can use a proxy. Yeah. And get good data, and we do
reasonable assumptions. An economist said that he would consider a stock market to be reasonably good if at any point in time the stocks in that company were no more than 200% of their actual value and no less than 50% of their actual value. Now that's a big range, right?
Huge.
You can make the same argument for lifetime values. I don't have to know to the dollar what your lifetime value is to know that you're worth more than my senile Uncle Gerald, right? Or than my kid, or than somebody who's not in the right income bracket, right? I don't have to know that. I just need an approximate level so that we can agree among ourselves inside the company what the economics are of some kind of program that I'm going to run.
So thanks for sharing that. I think that's really important, and you're right. It is a tough nut to crack for CX leaders who are getting beat up all the time for not doing a better job of it. And I think you're right in framing it out that way. That's really helpful. I think now the question I have for you is, as you start to think about AI or generative AI and its applications in the world to improve or lift CX, what are some strategies that come to mind for you that business leaders should be thinking about?
Well, the biggest problem that most companies have in implementing AI or any technology, but specifically this kind of technology, is coming to grips with the cultural and organizational obstacles to the success of that kind of strategy. In the same way that most companies are product-managed companies and not customer-managed companies, one of the problems that creates is that the entire company's structure is aligned with product sales and product profitability. And as I said, you can find the people who are accountable for that. So if I were in business today and had the Gen AI tools to do better and better with the data, I would want to set up a structure where I could hold some executives accountable. And when I say that, I mean reward them for increases and manage them across the quantitative side of things. I like to hold some managers accountable for how much value particular types of customers create for the business. The product-centric market, product-centric competition is all about trying to maximize the profitability of every product, okay, across all the customers. Now, my product meets a certain need. I want to try to find as many customers as I can who want to have that need met and sell as many products as I can. I'm trying to maximize the profitability of each product. The customer-centric organization needs to maximize the profitability of each customer, okay? How can you maximize the value created by a particular customer? Now, that value is created in two things, okay? It's created when the customer buys things right now, or if it's destroyed when customers cost you more to serve or whatever, right? But it also, a value is created if I have a really good experience with you, and so as a result, my likelihood of buying in the future goes up. So my lifetime value is increased, right? So when you think about maximizing the value that customers create, you need to think about both the customer's lifetime value and increasing that lifetime value as you think about the actual revenue generated by the customer in the future. Problem that most companies have is that this comes into conflict with return on investment. Companies think that the most important measure of success is return on investment. How much money can I get for the money I have to spend? But Martha and I wrote a book. Hang on, we wrote this book, Return on Customer. We proposed a metric. Think about it this way. I'm an investor. I buy a stock for $100, and at the end of the year, the stock has increased in value to $210, and I also got a $5 dividend. What was my ROI on that $100 investment? 15%, right? Mm-hmm. We argue that you should use the same kind of metric when trying to measure the efficiency with which you're creating value in your company through customers. I have a customer who's got a lifetime value of $100 today, and during the year I get a $5 profit from that customer, and my model says that by the end of the year the lifetime value is increased from $100 to $110. Then my return on customer, my ROC, is 15%. Now here's the thing. Return on customer, if you look at it at the enterprise level, it's equal to total shareholder return. Because at the enterprise level, okay, you're going to look at all the customer equity you have across all your current and future customers now, and you want to generate revenue from that, and you want to increase that customer equity, okay? And the revenue generated, the profit generated during the period, and the increase in the customer equity, that's what you put over the denominator, the initial customer equity, and that is equal to total shareholder revenue, total shareholder return. So return on customer is a much more exact approximation of your total corporate benefit generated with customer-oriented activities than is return on investment.
And so assuming that what I heard is the first thing is you really need to reframe the yardstick you're using to measure success and think about it in terms starting with the baseline of the customer. What are some strategies that AI affords us that we should be thinking about to drive those numbers in a positive direction?
Well, I think one of the tools is that it can take data in the wild and make more sense of it. It's more likely to make more sense of it. AI tools can actually compose their own algorithms to show the relationships. One of the biggest problems with the statistical quantification of numbers in the customer area or in any area really is it really does take a statistician to drill down and try to figure out what's really important, whether you're dealing with a normal curve or a log normal or some other sort of curve of statistical relevance. And so the AI tool can eliminate all that. You can ask it the question, and they'll tell you the answer if it's a good tool. But it also requires good data. Now, a lot of companies don't really have good data. There's still companies out there that can't agree on what the definition of a customer is. Okay? Like, is the customer the consumer who's buying my product or the grocery store I distribute the product through, right? Because the grocery store is paying me, but the consumer is paying the grocery. So where's the customer relationship? So a lot of companies need to make those kinds of decisions, like how to handle fuzzy definitions and so forth. But it's not beyond the realm of possibility. It's just not something that's been a high priority for a lot of businesses because what do I care what customers are worth? I'm just trying to sell this product.
You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. Obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors, but they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. The platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including Y Combinator and Techstar startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/simplify. That's VANTA.com/simplify for $1,000 off.
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike Big Wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
So get a clear definition of what is a customer.
Yeah.
And you can get a better vision into how to treat that customer through the use of AI tools that now exist.
Yeah. And by the way, I think you should think of a prospective customer as a customer with whom your current share of customer is 0, okay? And your goal is to increase your share of that customer's business. I think anybody who could buy from you should be considered a customer or prospective customer, okay? And I would argue that when you look at your customer equity is defined as the lifetime values of all your customers. I think it includes the lifetime values of all your prospective customers as well, okay? What's the lifetime value of a prospective customer? Well, it's their lifetime value if they were to become a customer times the likelihood that they're going to become a customer. And so therefore, you can manage that kind of issue in two different ways. You can increase the likelihood that they're going to become a customer by increasing your marketing acquisition story, or you could increase their lifetime values by targeting your acquisition to higher lifetime value prospects. You see what I'm saying? But I think that the definition of customer equity is not what the lifetime values of all your active customers are, but what the lifetime value of all your current and potential customers is. And that might be, it's easy to think about, it's a little harder to measure, but it's not impossible, and conceptually it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. So, all right, so I'm hearing two things. One is think about, number one, reframe it in terms of customer metrics, in terms of what we're measuring, and two, understand what the market potential is out there by including your current customer base or the total customer equity, but current and the prospective as well.
Right. And there's one more thing I really need to get in here. It's a very important issue, and that is, if my goal as a business is to maximize the value that each customer creates for my business, okay, then that inherently means that I should be working hard to earn the trust of all my customers, each and every one of them. Because think of it this way. A customer is likely to create the most value for you when they think you're creating the most value for them, all other things being equal. And when is that? When does that happen? It happens when the customer can trust you always to act in their interest, when they don't think that you're simply telling them something to sell another product. Okay, when they think that you're giving them advice that's inherently good for them, they're going to want more of that advice. They're going to want to deal with you more. So maximizing the value of customers is exactly in sync with. It's simply the flip side of trying to treat customers the way you'd like to be treated if you were the customer. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's the principle of reciprocity. But quantified.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think Charlie Green, who wrote The Trusted Advisor, talks about first you have to trust in order to be trusted. That's a huge factor.
I couldn't agree more, and Charlie Green had it exactly right.
Don, I have a follow-up question to that. In my mind comes up the idea of influencers, right? Yeah. Influencers who may not actually purchase a lot from you, but can ultimately help you generate a ton of business. Right. How do they factor into the equation? How should we pay attention to them?
Well, an interesting study was done of customers by the value at a telecom company. They looked at a consulting firm looked at the value of customers through their purchases and customers through their referrals. And what they found was the highest referring customers are not the highest value referrers are not necessarily the highest value buyers. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because if you're thinking about buying from company A, but you don't know whether you should or not, whose advice will you seek? Will you seek somebody who buys a lot of stuff from company A, or would you seek up somebody who you think knows a lot about the category and the problem that you're trying to solve, right? So what that says to me is that if you want to influence the influencers, you need to focus on generating the most knowledgeable customer proposition that you can. You want to focus on improving influencers' expertise, and as a result, influencing the influencers. You give them acknowledgement. You acknowledge they're an influencer. You reference them. You give them information. Maybe even you give them access to your engineers. They're thinking about this. What would your opinion be? The more you can do that, the more you increase their expertise, and the more valuable they're going to be to you, in my opinion. Assuming you've kept your product up to snuff.
Yeah, and I guess the baseline for that is you got to know who they are.
Yeah, right. That's not hard today. That's really not hard.
Yeah. So give me one more strategy on how to differentiate, how AI is going to help businesses differentiate on the experience.
So the problem that most companies have, as I said, was cultural or organizational issues, right? Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if you want AI to power through those kinds of issues, You have to start small with pilot projects. Put a few customers in a laboratory, in a sense. Do A/B tests. And this side of the business, we're doing AI-generated things. And I think over time, what will happen is that the successes on the AI side of things will generally pay off. But realize also that even as you're doing this, customer expectations are going up. The reason customers don't feel a lot more satisfied today than they did 20 years ago, and that's true statistically. The average level of customer satisfaction, despite the fact that 20 years ago, our products have dramatically improved in 20 years. We really have improved,
Right.
Could you imagine when you were 10, taking out some object in your phone and saying, tell me who the author was? Come on, it's ridiculous.
Right.
So customer experience has dramatically improved, but people's expectations are competitive, okay? My expectation of you is based on what my experience was with A, B, or C, right?
Right.
So therefore, the more customer expectations improve, the more customers expect them to, right? And it's a competitive battle. What you need AI to do is to help you be first in raising the customer's expectation above the static level it is today, right? You want to be first, and then when it reaches it, you want to be again, and then again, and then again. So you can't rest on your laurels with an AI tool and say, okay, we're there now. It's not going to happen. It's a journey. You're never going to reach the destination. It's a direction in which you're pointing your business, right? That's the issue.
Good stuff. So many great gems in here. I pulled a few out already. Some come to mind before I ask you my last question here. You talked about the yardstick. Start thinking about measuring from the customer backward rather than use traditional. And what's customer equity in your organization? Start thinking about that. Start identifying your best customers,
right?
And figure out who is worth the extra value, and then give them that value. And they'll reciprocate back, but you've got to do it through trust. Yes,
that's true. And also, it's not just the value by which you're differentiating customers. Customers are different in two ways. They're different in terms of their value to you, and they're different in terms of what they need you for, okay? That's both sides of the value proposition. What you need from the customer is money. What they need from you is solving their problem, right? That each of those things can be different in different customers. And so needs-based differentiation of customers allows you to look at particular types of customers or particular profiles of customers and understand that I've got 5 customers of this profile. They all need this. This other customer looks like this. He probably needs this, right? The same thing. And I think needs-based differentiation is also a critical issue that AI can help in.
And also, double-click on this one for me and make sure I'm thinking about this right. But way back when you and Martha wrote the One-to-One Future book, and you wrote on that, now we've come full circle with AI. And you mentioned early on near the top that we're getting closer to that. How close are we?
We're close, but not there yet. Martha and I, in Chapter 9 of the One-to-One Future was make money protecting privacy, not violating it. And guess what? All those big companies out there, Meta, Google, they all make money by violating your privacy. They don't make money by protecting your privacy. Now, Martha and I, when we imagined a world that was interactive, we thought that probably interactivity would have to be hosted by some large enterprise, all right? Like you'd have to go to, let's say, either Google or Facebook for your thing. But the truth is, when HTML came into play and the first web browser came out, the fact that nobody with a website has to agree for you to be able to see it, right? I can go look at it without your permission, right? If, on the other hand, you had to give permission, okay, then you'd have a moderated interaction. So all the print newspapers would now be online newspapers and just as profitable as before because they'd have subscriptions. The subscriptions might be in pennies, instead of dollars, okay? But it would still be an economic model. Instead, what's happened is the currency of interactivity is advertising and clicks and click-throughs, right? If I can show that your ad got more clicks, and guess what? Guess what incentivizes clicks better than anything else? Outrage. So is it any surprise that we have the chaotic system we have right now, so Meta and Google, they make a lot of money by simply running over your privacy and not representing your good interest. And I think that will eventually change somehow. I'm not exactly sure how. But when Martha and I wrote that book, we thought we were writing about a future, an interactive future that was still a decade or two away when we wrote the book. We thought that the key barrier to introducing interactivity was that they'd have to dig cables to people's homes to put in the fiber optic lines. We didn't think about being able to do all this stuff simply by phone connection, which turned out to be perfectly fine. There you are.
Well, it was incredibly visionary to think the way you were thinking back then, and to think about the idea that we could have these mass customization and personalized experiences that give consumers a better experience at scale.
Sure. Yeah, I'll tell you one story. When Martha and I were working on the book, we were thinking about writing a book about technology and how it's going to change, and the editor at Doubleday, who hadn't given us an advance yet, came back and said, look, I like your concept sort of, but I want you to tell us what technology will do to business. What will business have to do differently because of technology? Okay, so we're thinking about this. And at the time, I was president of direct marketing at Chiat Day, the advertising agency. I was in charge of the direct marketing, and our client for direct marketing, that is for the direct mail, okay, was the gold Amex card. We sent letters. We managed all the mail for the gold American Express card. Ogilvy and Mather managed all the mail for the green card. In those days, they had the green and the gold. That was it, right? But here's the problem with that. And I was talking with my colleagues. We were trying to solve the problem, how we adjudicate all this stuff and what the issue was. When you give up your green card and get a gold card, back in those days, back in the 1980s, 1990s, you got two letters from Amex. One from the gold card people, us, saying, wow, this is great that you've joined us, and look at all these benefits, it's great. And another one from the green card people, oh, what can we do? How do we screw up? What can we do to get you back? It's like nonsensical to the customer, right? So my executives and I were around a round table, and I said, well, you know what Amex needs to do is they need to manage their customers, not their cards. What if we were in charge of certain elite customers and Ogilvy had other customers there? Then, wait a minute, manage customers, and what's the measure of success? Share of customer, not share of market, share of customer. And we take products to customers. We don't take customers to the products in the store. We collaborate with customers. We don't, and those became the chapter titles to our book, The One-to-One Future, in 1993. Things like, if I read the chapter titles here: manage your customers, not your products; share of customer, not share of market; differentiate customers, not just products; engage customers in dialogue; take products to customers, not customers to products; and chapter 9: make money protecting privacy, not threatening it. There you go.
There you go. There it was. What a great conversation, Don. I've got one last question for you. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Business advice? I would say any advice. I would
any advice. Yeah.
I would say always assume that somebody you have a disagreement with has good intentions, but you just don't understand why. Maybe always assume good intentions in others. If I had to give, I've given this advice to my own kids: assume good intentions in others, and whenever you're about to have a big argument or a big fight, step back, assume their intentions are good. What should you do? How would you deal with that? How could you understand their intentions?
That I haven't heard that one in almost 120 episodes.
Okay,
but it's a true gem, and it could probably save people a lot of heartache, headache, and Counseling fees.
It's particularly good in today's political environment where sentiments are so diabolically different. So when I meet somebody who doesn't agree with me politically, I assume good intentions and I try to get at it. We don't always resolve them, but we have reasonable questions, at least frequently.
Excellent. Don Peppers, thank you so much. It's been such a privilege to have you on the Delighted Customers podcast.
Thank you, Mark Slayton. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Delighted Customers podcast. It would mean so much if you would take a moment to subscribe. You can go to Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts, click on the plus sign or follow button, and that will ensure that you don't miss an episode, and it helps get the word out to others. While you're there, I'd love it if you'd leave a 5-star review. I look forward to seeing you back here next Thursday.
You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. Obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors, but they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. The platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including Y Combinator and Techstar startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/simplify. That's VANTA.com/simplify for $1,000 off.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience and their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's LIBSYN, ads.com today.